All right, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, everybody. This is your Facebook meteorologist, Sean Bagdad, followed along with your Facebook meteorologist, Derek Centrone, here out of Florida. And we are here live to talk to you about a potentially significant and record-breaking winter storm that's going to be impacting the northern Gulf Coast of the United States. The first one in recent memory to allow winter storm warnings to be issued along the entire northern coast of the Gulf of America, which it's now named. What do you want to talk about, Derek, today, and as we start out here with our winter storm?
So I think we can't emphasize enough the significance of this event, just the snow totals that are expected. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about how difficult this has been to forecast up till this point. There's been so many ups and downs with the model runs and trying to pinpoint exactly where the storm is going to impact, but I think we have it pretty dialed in now. But just the widespread snow, the amount of snow in places that don't normally get this much snow, and the freezing rain impacts past the areas that the snow is expected, that can cause equal or greater disruptions than the snow itself as well, especially down into the peninsula of Florida in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the biggest uncertainties we've been seeing with this potential winter storm in the past few days here has been how far south is the cold air going to make it, and how far south is the snow line going to be. So you have the cold, dry air and you have the moisture. Where is that going to rub up, and where are we going to see the northern extent of the snow? That's been the really big deal. Earlier on, we did see it in central northern Louisiana, and now we've started to see models trend a little bit further to the south now. Now we're looking at Baton Rouge through New Orleans, Biloxi, Mississippi. We're also looking at Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida for some of the most significant snowfall impacts here. We're going to have a look at radar in a little bit here, but what we're seeing on radar right now actually kind of surprised us and is a little bit scary when it comes to what we're going to be seeing for these coastal Gulf Coast areas right here, or Gulf of America areas, as some may say right now.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're not from one of these areas and you're from an area that's prone to snow, yeah, 12 to 15 inches might sound like a lot of snow anywhere, but think about it that much worse in these areas that aren't equipped to handle any snow at all. So, like an inch or two of snow would be debilitating to some of these places. So, talking about potential double digits for snow in some of these areas is just like crazy to think about the impacts that that can have, and just normal things for people who are originally from the north, like Sean and I, like freezing rain completely shutting down communities for possibly days before we get enough warm air to start melting things.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want to break down the 250 millibar like upper level maps, Derek, and then I'll grab the 500 and then the lower levels?
Sure.
All right. So I got the 250 millibar map here. This is kind of the upper levels of the atmosphere that we're watching right now. Actually, let me
sharing
pull up the 250 millibar. So we've got the upper level jet featured here on the screen, and we're going to have Derek break this down for us right now.
So essentially what we're seeing is one of the things that was making this event a little bit hard to forecast is earlier on this trough was not looking as backloaded as it is currently now, which means that whole jet that's dipping down didn't look as significant, and it didn't look like it was going to transport in enough cold air to make this system as significant as it could be. But recently that has changed. We have started to see a little bit more of that amplification of that jet along the backside of it, just trucking that Arctic cold air down further south. And something else I'm currently watching is that almost anticyclonically curved subtropical jet feature that phases with that trough as it dips down into those Gulf Coast states. That's really going to intensify that jet streak. That's going to intensify that surface low, and that's going to cause this to intensify very similarly to some of these other Gulf lows we've seen earlier last year, such as the hurricanes or other Gulf low features. As soon as you get that phase, you'll really see these lows amplify, bomb out quite a bit. And just even looking at that jet streak up over southern New England, that just shows exactly how powerful this trough is going to get. And that's just going to be trucking in that cold air. That subtropical jet feature is just going to be trucking in moisture from the it's just going to be pumping it in from the Gulf. It's going to be pumping it in from some of those southern areas. It's going to be pumping in pretty much everything you need to be able to get a snow event here. You don't need as much moisture for these snow events as you need for some of these other events that you get around this area, like those really strong thunderstorms and hurricanes, because you do have the ratio. So that is something to keep in mind with this event. Colder temperatures, less moisture, but there's plenty of moisture there to be used.
Yeah, absolutely, Derek. And the thing we're also watching here is that subtropical jet is also pumping in that Pacific moisture as well. And then once it interacts with the Gulf, we're seeing that difluence aloft, which is really going to help with the lift. You can easily see that here happening about a day from now over the southeastern U.S. from Georgia into southern Alabama here, even into northern Florida. And that's really going to help bring us the lift that we do need aloft. In association with this cold Canadian high digging in behind this, we'll likely see some pretty significant snowfall totals up here, even into the southern Appalachians as well. I would not be surprised with that at all. So we are going to be going down a little bit in the atmosphere. Derek broke down the upper levels. Now I'm going to break down the mid levels here, and we're going to have a look at our 500 millibar vorticity. So again, as we said, this is going to be the mid levels of the atmosphere here. And then Derek will break down the lower mid levels of the atmosphere. So what we're looking at here is two pieces of energy merging together. That's going to be this piece of energy over, say, the San Diego region right now, and this piece of energy over the double point between Nebraska and Colorado here. We're going to see these pieces of energy sort of merge together. The thing that we're watching here is we're not seeing a complete merge, which is keeping this, or a complete phase, which is going to be causing this to be a slightly less significant system than we would see if both of these pieces of energy would end up merging. We're seeing more of an elongated stationary boundary starting to develop here across the northern southeast of the U.S. With that being said, we do have this very strong positive vorticity advection, or a lot of lift, in other words, being forced up from the Gulf of Mexico, warm, moist air getting forced up from the Gulf of Mexico, in this case, relatively warm, moist air, of course, because we are talking about a snowstorm here, not a severe weather event. But we are seeing these isolated bands of vorticity here getting funneled up into this frontal boundary. And when those do interact with this very energetic air mass out in front of the stationary boundary, it is likely that we're going to be seeing some pretty significant snowfall rates occurring here. The reason that we are talking about snowfall being a little bit further south now is that we're seeing a quicker progression of this rather dry air pushing in behind the stationary boundary here and consolidating a lot of the heaviest snow and the coldest temperatures to the coastline here. We're also going to be seeing a lot of convergence occurring right along the coastline here. This is how you get your water spouts, but we're not expecting water spouts this time. This is going to be more of an orographic effect. So we're going to see the winds slow down as they hit the Florida coastline here, the Florida Peninsula. They're going to lift up along the coastline, and that's going to create relatively heavy bands of snow to develop from the Pensacola area right here to the Mobile, Alabama area. We're also going to be talking about Biloxi, Mississippi, New Orleans, and especially Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is going to be very close. We're on the edge of seeing either no snow or 15 inches of snow. So we're going to be breaking that down in this podcast right now as we break down this significant winter storm that's going to be impacting the southeastern United States and the northern Gulf of America region.
Let's pause right there for a second?
Yeah, go for it. I'll bring up the 500 millibar again.
Did somebody say cold core Gulf effect tornadoes? I'm just kidding.
Potentially, I would not be surprised with it.
Because I mean, we saw that a little bit earlier. We saw that earlier last year.
Mexico is right now. I would not be surprised with that shift in wind, creating some cold core waterspout tornadoes. That would not be unexpected.
Because we saw that happen a little bit earlier last year, actually. Now, around the Thanksgiving time when we had that big lake effect snow event that happens around New York and Pennsylvania, we saw a couple cold core water spouts drop. And I would be curious to see if we could see that happen in the Gulf, because something else I just want to add in here is we talk about lake effect snow a lot because it is very common to see up in the colder regions around the Great Lakes. But we have the exact same thing happen in the Gulf here, where we can have Gulf effect snow, where you have that cold air moving over the warm Gulf, which can cause local coastal heavier bands of snow. And even though it doesn't get talked about much, it's still a very real thing. And I'm sure that there's probably plenty of Florida residents watching this right now, scratching their head saying, how come I've never heard of this before? It's a very, very uncommon thing to get that much cold air moving over this far south to be able to cause something like Gulf effect snow.
Oh, 100%. And since we have that cross-polar flow digging south across the area, with focused southeasterly flow coming in off the Gulf of Mexico in front of that area of cross-polar flow, it is 100% expected that you could see significant banding features setting up in that Pensacola to Tallahassee area there. That'll be something very interesting to watch for Gulf of America induced snow showers, I guess you could say. We do have one question from Meg Dunham here, which I have pulled up. She said, I just joined. What dates are we looking at? We are looking at dates from today, probably through the next 2 days here. Wouldn't you say, Derek?
Yes. As of right now, it is looking like anything that's going to impact particularly Florida is going to be on the later side. Wednesday morning is when we're going to see this probably start to push off out over the Atlantic, but it's already started. It's going to be impacting us from pretty much tonight through Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. You know who that is in that profile picture, by the way?
I wonder who.
Okay, we're going to continue on. We're going to have Derek break down the 850 millibar wind speeds here, whatever he wants to break down with the 850 millibar level, and then we'll break down the surface level here in Wyoming.
All right, let me zoom in on this actually. Yeah. Wow, that is a lot of stuff.
Okay, I'm going to Frontogenesis. There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, we have a pretty quickly intensifying cyclone here, and we're gonna kind of see that. We're gonna see that band of confluence start to tighten there as it kind of starts to push off to the north. You can see it a little bit further, actually. As here, can you advance the map a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right in there. See that area of red and pink? That is a band of or 850 millibar confluence, as that deepens, that is going to be where you're going to see some of those elevated snowfall values. And also, even though we do have quite a bit of a 850 jet, we do not have a very, very strong 850 jet. And that's kind of what you want to see for these snow events. You don't want to see that ripping 850 jet that we have for these tornado events. You want to kind of have it relatively, I don't want to say weak, but you want to have it weaker, because that allows any snow, like any dendrites that form, to fall through the column and not get completely torn apart by a low level jet.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna see those snowfall ratios, or the amount of snowfall in inches that you can get with minimal actual rain precipitation. You're gonna be able to see a little bit more snow per liquid raindrop. So in these cases right here, we are going to be watching the 850 millibar temperatures very closely. And as you can see, we're thoroughly below freezing, especially in Louisiana here, as this trough kind of digs in and we get that colder temperature aloft to fold back over northern Louisiana and into southern Texas here, coastal Texas, northern Alabama, and northern Georgia, northern Mississippi as well. And what this is going to cause is it's going to cause the snowfall to be very efficient as it falls through the atmosphere. Generally, when you see temperatures at 850 millibars between, say, 10 and 18 degrees Celsius here, this area, you're going to be seeing very efficient snowfall accumulations. And for the record, we're going to be seeing a very steady temperature profile through the atmosphere as this event continues to roll on. It's just starting now, but we're going to see a very steady increase in temperature, or stability in temperature, as you go up through the column. What this means is there's going to be a very large area within the atmosphere that you're going to see a very favorable area for significant snowfall and very efficient snowfall to develop. And this is going to be happening right along this line right here from southern Louisiana through southern Mississippi. We're talking Biloxi here, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. We're talking about Birmingham, Alabama, down to Mobile, Alabama, potentially Pensacola, Florida. That is right on the edge there. We're right on the edge of that freezing rain line there. Where you see this white line here, that is where you're on the edge of that snow to freezing rain line. Generally, we're seeing these cooler temperatures as we go a little bit below the 850 millibar level here. This is a bit of an inversion layer with this system, so we're going to have to closely watch this. But Pensacola on the edge, Biloxi, Mississippi on the edge, Mobile, Alabama, and then in New Orleans and Baton Rouge, you're going to have a great time with this. Several inches of snow back in here, as you're going to be thoroughly within the cold air. Anything you want to add on to the 850 millibar analysis, Derek?
Yeah, so while the jet isn't necessarily strong enough to impact our snowfall ratios, it is strong enough to really help that moisture transport, and I think that's going to help everything else out even more, because you do still want that 850 millibar moisture return to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I do want to mention here on the 250 again is we are closely watching this as we have a significant push of wind up around 40,000 feet here at the 250 millibar level. We're watching the difluence happen, and we're also watching the potential for ventilation with the system to happen, a rapidly strengthening system to happen here. Not calling a bomb cyclone because this is a frontal boundary, but it is really going to help the snowfall rates strengthen as this trough deepens and starts to turn negative and move off to the Atlantic coast here. These sorts of winds aloft really help increase snowfall totals, or even in the summer, precipitation totals as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So what we're going to talk about now, we are going to bring up the current radar, if I can, right now. Sometimes this is a little more difficult to bring up. 1 second. I'm going to stop the screen share here.
Also, just got to say, shout out to whoever laugh reacted our live. We're glad we could make you laugh tonight. Glad we're so funny.
Absolutely. We are hilarious.
Hey, Sean, do you want to tell me a joke, actually? See if we can get some more laugh reacts on here? Just keep it relatively PG-13 so we don't get demonetized.
I would be, yeah, exactly. We'd be demonetized otherwise. So
tell me a weather joke. Come on, do something.
Okay, so here's a really good weather joke. You know what we're looking at right here on the radar, Derek?
Is this a trick question?
It could be.
I mean,
what are we looking at?
Reflectivity.
No, we're looking at snow.
Yeah, obviously.
This is precipitation depiction right here. But what we're looking at is gravity waves. And do you know what gravity waves will do to people who laugh at our posts?
Do I want to know?
So basically what they're going to do to people that laugh at our posts, especially when you have those really strong winds aloft at 250 millibars, you're going to see rapidly increasing snowfall rates, especially within this band of Huntsville to Anderson, Brentham, Belleville, Conroe, up to Quincy, Jasper. In that area, I'm guessing that's where you laughed at this post, because this is where the heaviest snow is going to fall. And it's going to be really funny for you when you get out onto the streets there. Hopefully some other people get that joke, because that is really funny in the meteorology community. Hopefully.
I'm laughing so hard right now. Sean, you've lost your right to speak for the rest of the
I know. I lost my sense of humor there. But, you know, we had to help the trolls out there.
Thank you for your wonderfully choreographed jokes. We'll be live again tomorrow in case you want to come back for some more comedy show. This is Derek Centrone, meteorologist with Stormfront Specialists, and you're watching the Stormfront Specialist Network. Okay, never mind.
Okay, that was a great advertisement, Derek. But what we are closely watching here is this rapidly intensifying band of moderate to heavy snow developing here along the piney woods of Texas, down through just north of Houston here, and along the I-10 corridor. This is likely to expand to the south as we do see these snowfall rates increase, and we strengthen this area of low pressure that has been sampled by hurricane hunters today off to the south of the Gulf of Mexico. This is going to be the deformation band we usually see off in the northeastern U.S. with these nor'easters, or up in the northwestern U.S. with those Colorado lows that end up developing there. We're going to see a rather intense band of snowfall rates developing here, especially from Houston to Conroe and moving into the Lake Charles area, and then over into the Baton Rouge and New Orleans areas here. We're going to be closely watching this radar through the next several nights here. Well, the next 2 nights here. And we'll be watching the current snowfall reports coming in. Is there anything else you want to add to this radar image, Derek, before I can get it up here?
I mean, not particularly. You pretty much said it all.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'll bring up for you, actually, is the... Hold on here. We are going to look at the SPC mesoanalysis. How about we have a look at the dendritic growth layer depth here. This is very important when it comes to the significant snowfall ratios that we are talking about here. How about we have Derek talk about the dendritic growth zone and what that means in terms of depth for the snowfall rates that we are expecting across southern Louisiana into coastal Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and even portions of the Florida Panhandle overnight tonight and into tomorrow.
I'll try my best here. Sean is the snow guy. I'm more of the hurricane and severe weather guy, so I'll try my best. Snow's not my specialty, but I do know a thing or two, so let's see if I can do this. Are you pulling up the meso analysis? Thank you. I do not use this product regularly.
Okay. Well, then in that case, I am going to break down the dendritic growth zone right here. But basically what we are looking at is the depth at which the temperatures are between -10 and -18 degrees Celsius. Sorry to throw you under the bus there, Derek. But
I know how it works. I just usually read it off of soundings. I don't use this, and I did not know what it was depicting.
Okay, that's fair. But what we're looking at here is the dendritic growth zone. As I said before, we're looking at the area between, I kind of messed that up before, but -12 and -18 degrees Celsius aloft in the 850 millibar layer-ish up is what we're looking at here. And as we can see, we have this very deep layer of dendritic growth zone developing here across northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, down through the Dallas area of Texas and into Lubbock. This is where that Arctic cold front is, and likely we don't have the moisture here to create any snowfall. What we are watching here is the area in front of this does have a significant amount of lift. This brings us back to the 500 millibar vorticity map that we were watching before, where we had that very defined kind of stationary frontal boundary pushing off slowly to the south and east. And that's what we're looking at right here. This is the cold air moving in aloft, and this is where our lift is, down to the south of those very compact isotherms right there, whatever you call the gradients within the dendritic growth zone. But what we are watching here is a rapidly deepening area of the dendritic growth zone here across the southern central Mississippi area through central Louisiana and just north of Houston, Texas here. This is where the heaviest banding snow has developed already, and this is starting to push south as we start to get that rapidly deepening area of low pressure happening across the Gulf of Mexico here. So as we see these drop south, we're going to see colder air move into the area and a deepening dendritic growth zone across the region. So what that means is very efficient snowfall accumulations, very fast accumulating snowfall through this event for areas around the Houston area, north to Conroe, into the southern Piney Woods, into Baton Rouge, New Orleans, the southern parishes of Louisiana, Biloxi, Mississippi, Gulfport, Mississippi, and Pensacola, Florida. Also, Mobile, Alabama is going to be getting in on this very efficient snowfall as very cold air ends up moving in aloft across the Gulf Coast of the United States here.
Also,
we're going to be looking. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to mention how that overlap of that deepening dendritic growth zone is kind of right over where those gravity waves are starting to fire off as well, and how that could amplify the forcing locally within the dendritic growth zone that could be leading to some of those heavier snow bands? Because I just noticed that overlap right there, and that could be pretty significant.
Yeah, I can absolutely go over that. So keep in mind what we are seeing here with this rather tightening dendritic growth zone right here across northern Louisiana into the Dallas area of Texas. We're going to bring up here really quickly the radar imagery that we were looking at a little bit earlier here. We're going to move it over into the Houston, Texas area because that's where we're going to get the best radar imagery of this feature Derek was talking about. But that dendritic growth zone layer that we were talking about, where that cold air is moving in aloft, is right up here, just south of the Dallas area. What we are closely watching, or what we were watching before, now it's really come to fruition, is some gravity waves that we're developing within these bands, especially the northern end of the bands right now, of this snowstorm. Yes, the blue is snow right now moving into the Houston area and the Conroe area. This is a significant amount of lift we're looking at right here. And when we merge this cold front with a rapidly deepening area of low pressure and a rapidly strengthening frontal boundary over Texas, where there is significant moisture that is getting pulled in off the Gulf of Mexico, we definitely have problems developing for these areas here, especially, let me pull this to the most recent radar image right here, especially for areas from Huntsville south to just north of Houston, say the Humble area here. Several inches of snow are possible in this region, and off to the east into the Piney Woods region, significant banding of snow is definitely likely, including the areas of Onalaska, Seven Oaks, Woodsville, Livingston, Cold Spring, Shepherd, Cleveland, Roman Forest, Humble, Liberty, Devers, and into the Lumberton area. We're going to be quickly seeing this expand off to the east here, looking at areas such as Alexandria, Louisiana, and south through the Lafayette area, even further south potentially through the southern parishes of Louisiana, say New Iberia, and into the Baton Rouge area, and especially into New Orleans. Or New Orleans, as they say it down south. We'll be watching this heavy band of snow make its way into this area. Models have hinted at the idea of this slightly moving south through the night as that cold air and that dry air start to make a resurgence to the south towards the Gulf of America here. And we are going to be closely watching this through the night tonight, at least through the next couple hours, as this heavy band of snow develops and potentially moves off to the south. Models have been really hinting at the areas between Alexandria and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, being the bullseye for significant snowfall rates to occur, potentially even in the 8 to 12 inch range, even higher than that in some cases, but due to melting early on, as we do have warm surface temperatures in place, we may not be seeing those double-digit totals that are being shown on models, but certainly 8 to 12 inches is a real possibility with what we're seeing on models across the Baton Rouge to Alexandria area and down to New Orleans. And you want to add on to that, Derek?
Yeah, do we have infrared satellite by any chance available? Because that might make it a little bit easier for the viewers to see some of these gravity waves pushing off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we have Danny Martin here. He says so much for global warming. Kind of agree with that. It's more like climate change. And thank you for Donald Trump for renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. America, everybody. But you continue to talk, Derek, because I'm going to completely butcher this if I can continue talking. Actually, before you start talking, I'm going to pull up live cams out of Conroe, Texas, right here, where snow is really starting to fall at a heavy rate. Have a look at this. this is in that banding feature we just mentioned right here out of Conroe, Texas, the club at Houston Oaks right now. And we are seeing very heavy snow falling, at least for Texas terms, across this area. As you can see, the warm surface temperatures have continued to melt the snow on those blacktop surfaces, but grassy areas, elevated surfaces such as bridges are going to start to freeze as we go through the overnight hours and temperatures start to drop as that cold air moves in from that Arctic high off to the north here. Big snowflakes falling, that only means one thing, and that means very efficient snowfall starting to fall here, rapidly accumulating as we speak in Conroe, Texas. Do you want to continue on with what you were saying there, Derek? Hello?
Yeah, what was I getting on about again? Sorry. I lost my train of thought.
I was going to go look for some infrared satellite imagery, and you were going to talk about snow.
Oh. What have not what
or
have
whatever
we not
you want to talk about.
I think our connection's kind of breaking up a little bit. I can hear myself echoing through this.
Oh, can you? Hold
Yeah.
on one second while I pull this up here. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm just getting up the infrared satellite imagery here, and boom. Have a look at that, Derek. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, you can definitely see those waves popping off.
Yeah, you want to talk about the infrared satellite imagery here?
Yeah, you think you can zoom in a bit so I can see it a little easier? It's very
Oh
small.
yeah, absolutely. I can do that. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, you can see some of those waves starting to push away from the center there. It's a little easier to see on here than it was on radar. It's not as easy to see as some of the stronger cyclones like the hurricanes we were looking at earlier last year. But you can definitely kind of start to see those waves rippling away from the center. And each one of those waves, as we were talking about before, particularly as they moved closer to that area of that gradient in the dendritic growth zone, is they just act as little areas of lift. So if you kind of think of the concept of vorticity as what causes the lift in the atmosphere on a broader scale, these gravity waves are going to almost create a very, very small scale area of localized lift. So as Sean was talking about before, where you want that lifting in that dendritic growth zone, if you have these gravity waves interacting with that kind of tightening dendritic growth zone area that we kind of see up a little bit more to the north. Ideally, that would be a little bit further south where we have these gravity waves right now, but there is going to be a window where the two are going to interact. You're going to have um, the lifting from the system in that dendritic growth zone, which is going to amplify your snowfall ratio. But then if you can have just a little bit of that interaction with those gravity waves starting to push into that dendritic growth zone, we're going to start to see very, very heavy banding in that area. And like Sean said, do I think that's going to cause some kind of massive, never seen before snow explosion that something like that could cause if it was in a more snow prone region? No, because we still have some of those more marginal temperatures that we're dealing with here. We don't have those really cold northern temperatures where if we were to see something like this in New England, we would go, oh, upslope snow, oh, the other thing, this could be huge. But this could definitely be enough to create a couple more inches of snow locally for people who are in those areas that could be impacted by this. And as I stated at the very beginning of this video, all it takes is a couple inches of snow in some of these areas to cause more problems. So every inch of snow counts.
Absolutely. And one thing that I was looking at in this satellite imagery, Derek, that you can clearly see is going to be an issue. You can see this northern piece of energy, say here across northern Louisiana and in between Dallas and Houston right here. This is your jet stream starting to dig in and dig positive and then slightly negative as we head into the next couple of days here. And then you have this subtropical jet, which you can clearly see here, pummeling into Florida, the peninsula of Florida, and even into a little bit of the Mobile, Alabama area here. This is going to be something to watch because where these collide, that is where you're going to see your maximum in snowfall. You're going to be seeing that cold air with that northern disturbance push a little further south, and that warm, moist air with that subtropical jet pushing a little bit further north. So this is a clear telltale sign that we are going to be seeing significant snowfall and snowfall rates developing within these gravity waves that we're seeing here along coastal Texas and the southern Louisiana area here. Very impressive, especially for a snowstorm in these areas. You rarely see this with this rapid uplift in this diffluent area here with temperatures below freezing. Especially scary for these areas. But the area that we're seeing these converge is where we're going to see those heavier snowfall rates. And where that is, that's going to be New Orleans here as this southern mode pushes north and the northern mode pushes south. It's going to be New Orleans. Let me zoom back in here a little bit. It's going to be Baton Rouge. It's going to be into Biloxi, Mississippi, Gulfport, Mississippi, and Mobile, Alabama, where potentially several inches of snow, a plowable snow for northern New England is what we would call it, is expected to fall across this area, even potentially into the Pensacola region here. We're going to be closely watching this area as these two areas converge, create diffluence aloft, and subsequent lift aloft to create those potentially significant snowfall rates across the area that we're already seeing from Conrad, Florida, all the way, or Conrad, Texas, all the way down to just north of the Houston area. This is about to push into southern Louisiana. We'll be covering the Florida modes tomorrow, of course, once we're done with this live. Anything else you want to add into that, Derek, as I look at the comments here?
Not particularly. I think we kind of covered everything.
All right, perfect. And just to mention, Joseph Walters did just comment on us. He says the Gulf Coast Weather Group appreciates the content link and the content. Though the admin of Stormfront Specialist Severe Weather Network needs to contact the admin of Gulf Coast Weather. We will definitely contact the admin of Gulf Coast Weather here and see what they're talking about after we're done with this live. We would be glad to reach out to you. Anything else you want to add on to this before we break down the surface condition, potential road impacts, and ice accumulations?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, absolutely. So we are going to go down to the surface level right here, and we are going to break down the actual snowfall totals. We're going to break down exactly what we've been talking about over the past few minutes here, well, hour. And we're going to bring it down into one cohesive forecast here since we've been taking a little while to do that. Where do you want to start off, Derek?
Probably in the direction of the storm. So maybe start off in Texas and push our way along.
Okay, yeah, we're right here. So I'm gonna start off for you here just to give you a feel of what we're doing. We're gonna have a look at the snow ratios across the area. This is gonna be very important in terms of snowfall forecasting across the region. I know a lot of us down in the Gulf Coast don't know about snowfall ratios, but we're going to walk you through it. This is how we make a snowfall forecast up north, and we're going to show you how we're creating the snowfall forecast for your area. So what we're first noticing here This is pretty much a graph or a graphical version of showing how much snow can fall from 1 inch of water. So these are what these ratios are. So say up here in central Mississippi, if 1 inch of rain were to fall, 12 inches of snow would fall. Pretty self-explanatory here. But as you can see, this kind of shows you how that cold air moves in, because the colder air that's aloft, the more snow in general you can get from 1 inch of rainfall equivalent. And you can see over the next couple hours here, you see those darker purples move into the area, and we're going to be seeing those higher snowfall ratios move in. We are talking about at the peak of the system here, potentially 14 to 16 inches of snow to 1 inch of water falling across the Baton Rouge area into southern Mississippi here. Also 12 to 1 ratios, which are quite rare, across the New Orleans area into Lake Charles. The Houston area could be in the 10 to 1. That's about what y'all consider average here. And then into the Pensacola area, Mobile, Alabama, and again, Gulfport, Biloxi, Mississippi. We're talking about these higher snowfall ratios in the 14 to 12 to 1 area. So now that you know what those snowfall ratios are, Derek, let's break down what the total precipitation accumulations are here and what that means for snowfall totals.
Do you want me to get on contacting that person, or do you want to just, while you continue on with this, just to kill two birds with one stone here?
Yeah, why don't we do that? That sounds good.
Just from the official account or from my personal?
From the official account.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to continue on talking about snowfall here while Derek's contacting that Joseph Walters person here, the admin of the Gulf Coast weather. But what we're closely watching here, exactly what we pulled from the upper level maps, is this heavier band of precipitation, snowfall, developing here across the Baton Rouge area, a little bit actually south of the Baton Rouge area now, and in between there and the New Orleans area. So we're watching upwards of 1 inch of precipitation to fall in a very narrow band between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And what that means, we were talking about 12 to 14 to 1 snowfall ratios. That means about 1 foot to 14 inches of snow could fall. What is the issue here is that very warm surface temperatures are going to exist across this region here between New Orleans and the Baton Rouge area, as significant snowfall is falling, but due to recent warm temperatures, of course, since we're in the Gulf Coast of the United States here, it's going to take a little bit to calm down those surface temperatures. What that means is we're likely going to see maybe a 50 to 75 or a 25 to 50% reduction in snowfall accumulations here. So what this means is within this band, instead of 1 foot to 16 inches of snow like we normally see up in the colder regions here, we'll likely see that melting occur, and then maybe 8 to 12 inches of snow occurring from this significant band of heavy snow that's expected to set up tonight across southern Louisiana between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. Areas a little bit further south of New Orleans, we are going to be completely in the snow corridor here. No worries about warm air mixing in at the surface or aloft. Hurricane hunters have already gone through. Cold air aloft is not a problem here. We're going to be getting heavy snow happening across the very southern portions or parishes of Louisiana here from New Orleans south. Definitely a possibility that we see 2 to 4 inches of snow across the very southern parishes here of Louisiana. A little bit further north, we're going to have those higher snowfall ratios due to that thicker dendritic growth zone here. I know that may be a little bit above your head, but what that means is we're going to be seeing more snowfall from less precipitation or rainfall equivalent here. So what we'll be looking at is maybe 20 inches of snow to 1 inch of water. What that means here is potentially upwards of 4 inches of snow from Alexandria, Louisiana, south to Baton Rouge, and wherever that heavy band of snow is able to set up. We're also talking about this across the Houston area, although we are going to be seeing a little bit wetter of a component to the snowfall here. We are going to be seeing some pretty significant snowfall here, potentially record-breaking snowfall for the Houston area. Would not be surprised with 3 to 5 inches of snow across this Houston area, as we are seeing those very significant banding features setting up across this area of the southern piney woods here right now as we speak. These are dropping heavy snowfall rates. We've already seen confirmation of very efficiently accumulating snowflakes falling, especially across the Conrad area. These areas, upwards of 5 inches of snow, it would not be surprising. As we move a little bit further off to the east into Alabama here, we are still expecting to see snow through this area. 2 to 4 inches again is certainly not out of the question in this area. We do get in a little bit to the warmer temperatures, but 2 to 4 inches certainly is not going to be a problem here. Even down into this Pensacola area, models have been hinting at a very significant band of snow, setting up ocean effect snow, actually, very similar to lake effect snow developing here. Close to the Pensacola area, where up to 0.6 inches of rainfall accumulation could occur. And that's not going to be in the form of rain. Due to the cold temperatures aloft, we'll likely be seeing this in the form of snow. So it would not be surprising at all to see upwards of 1/2 foot of snow in Pensacola, or points slightly to the east of that as we go through the next 2 days here. Looking over the Jacksonville, Florida area, Gainesville, Florida, Ocala, Florida, up into Savannah, Georgia. This area of heavier precipitation here is going to be dominated by warm air aloft. Why is that the case? The Gulf of America is going to be pumping in some very warm, moist air from Mexico, actually, the coast of Mexico, into the peninsula of Florida. What's this going to cause? Warm air aloft with cold air pooling down beneath that. What does that mean? It means freezing rain is going to be a huge issue here across the coastal areas of the Atlantic and across the northern regions of Florida. We'll likely be seeing amounts of freezing rain significantly less than this because we're going to be seeing those warmer surface temperatures here. We'll likely see that melting occurring, but freezing will take place as we do see temperatures drop into the upper 20s here, mid 20s as well, potentially even the lower 20s here into the western panhandle of Florida. Let's have a quick look before we leave you guys off here at the model runs for freezing rain. Let's head over to winter here and freezing rain accumulation. Yep, here we go. And that is your freezing rain expected accumulation. Again, it's going to be slightly lesser than what we're seeing here on the graphical forecast, just due to the fact that it's not picking up on the melting as well as we would. We know as humans that the ground is warm here. The models don't pick up that on entirely. So certainly not expecting say 0.9 inches over Tallahassee of ice. That would be significantly catastrophic here across this narrow band from Savannah over to the Tallahassee area. But it certainly is not out of the question we see 0.3 inches of ice. This is going to be a very significant icing event for northern Florida and into southern Georgia here, up into the coastline of Georgia as well. We're going to be seeing rapidly freezing bridges across the area. If you are driving or expecting to drive in this area, I would highly discourage against it. Anywhere pretty much south of Jacksonville, I would say is fair game, but I would not go north of Jacksonville. We'll be seeing significant icing issues on roadways, especially in this freezing rain band here. And then off to the north, we get that heavier snow band, those heavier snow bands mixing in, which is going to cause significant problems across the area in terms of travel for schools. We'll likely see cancellations for schools along the Gulf Coast and into central Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia through the next few days with this event. But again, likely seeing areas of 8 to 12 inches of snow falling across southern and central Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and then slightly lower amounts as we head off to northern Louisiana, where 2 to 4 inches of snow could fall, 2 to 4 inches of snow across central Mississippi, coastal Alabama, and the western peninsula of Florida here, with locally 8 to 12 inch amounts, depending on where the heaviest Gulf of America banding does set up here. And then about 3 to 5 inches expected back here into those heavy banding features that have developed tonight across the Conrad, Texas area down south through Houston and into the Piney Woods region here, the southern Piney Woods region of Texas. But if you guys have no more questions for us here, we are going to head out for the night. And we will see you all tomorrow night for a breakdown of what happened on the western side of the system. And we're going to be going over the eastern portions of the system again. We'll be doing a little bit of a forecast breakdown here to see how it went. And we'll be breaking down all of the current impacts across the northern Gulf of America coast here. That'll be quite interesting to break down. So without further ado, we're going to head out for the night. Y'all have a great night, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Thank you. See you.